who was the first chair of the Parliamentary Committee for the Implementation
Oversight.
The committee, the Constitution Implementation Oversight Committee of the National Assembly then. And before that, the Parliamentary Select Committee on Constitution Review that vetted and approved the appointment of the Committee of Experts on Constitution Review. The CEO of that Committee of Experts on Constitution Review is Dr. Ekuru Aukot. Interviewed.
Hired.
Hired, basically.
I thought it was the National Assembly that hired.
That's true.
Okay. So the chair, the then CEO of the Committee of Experts, Dr. Ekuru Aukot, is also here with us. He is our guest. Now, remember the gentleman, the way you've said, the Arkan University Hospital, if you're thinking about it. So they have very many branches. There are 53 specialist clinics across the country. They've got the main one in Nairobi, the main one in Mombasa, the main one in Kisumu, right? And then all these specialist clinics. And beyond that, there is the home-based care, where they say you don't have to keep coming back to visit the doctari when you're going through treatment. The doctari can come to you, can send physiotherapists to you if there's physiotherapy that you need, can send a nurse to you if it's just, like wound care and treatment that you're dealing with, can send lab to you if it's just coming to take samples so we can see how you're doing. And then those results will be sent to you. And the doctari himself or herself will come visit you for those visits to come and check how you're doing and how you're faring. You don't have to think about constantly going to hospital throughout your treatment. Home-based care by the Arkan University. City, remind the country. No, remind the world. This week, the proverbs have been from the People's Democratic Republic
of Algeria.
Yes.
And today's proverb is a fairly straightforward one.
The absent
always has a justification.
The absent always has a justification.
Yes.
All right. Senior Counsel Paul Moita, where's your client? Mr. Speaker, I also don't know. I'm trying to trace my client. The absent always has a justification.
Yes.
After 5 p.m., my client has been taken ill. He's in hospital. The absent always has a justification. Let's head back into this issue.
Yeah.
We have two very, very strong schools of thought here. And the reason why we invited you gentlemen is to look at the spirit, because you were there when the Constitution was being drafted and it was being discussed. So the spirit of the Constitution and the letter that we see in the Constitution today. Senior Counsel Abdulkadir Mohammed says, the spirit of the Constitution is that impeachment is a political process and it should be left there. Political process, it ends there. You, Dr. Ekuru Aukot, you say, the spirit and the letter of the Constitution are merging here because the spirit of the Constitution in totality is everybody deserves justice, a right to be heard, and they deserve some arbitration and fairness. And therefore, even this political process should still be subjected to a judicial process.
So, for me, I think the best way to describe it is to call it a legal political process. Okay? It's a legal political process because at the time of making any constitution in the country, in any country, it's a political process.
Yeah.
But the moment you pen it down and now becomes the highest law in the land, that's why we call it the highest law in the land. The constitution is the highest law. So that even when you read Article 2, for example, any law or any rule or that is inconsistent with the constitution is null and void from the very beginning. So once it's now concretized to become that law, the social contract, as we call it, then it becomes the highest law in the land. Any law that contradicts, so anything that you do that contradicts that constitution, then is a nullity. And that's why, yes, you can try Gachagua from your political perspective, but try him within the rigors of the law. That because you're applying the law, you're saying, I've accused this man of undermining the president. Where is the evidence? Then you are going into the Evidence Act that's passed by the same parliament. If you're saying that he's undermining devolution, give us the evidence. And that is a matter of legality. Now, you cannot only just say that the political process closes an avenue for somebody to seek legal intervention. It does not. Because the same way you challenge a political process by way of, election petitions. Election petition is a consequence of political process. But we end up in court because to say you stuffed the ballots, you stole the ballots, there was this and that, So it is not a watertight, that the process of impeachment actually ends up at the Senate itself. Because if the trial was shambolic, as we saw, if the mover of the motion himself could not even substantiate his claims, then there has to be recourse to me, because otherwise then what are we ushering in if we say let everything just be political, especially since we have already established the character and nature of our politics in Kenya is so shady. It has been commercialized, it's manipulation. You have members of parliament who admitted that they were paid to sign this thing on the promise that one of their own will be the deputy president. Now, really, that is politics. But does it take away the legality of it? It does not. And so that's my point number one. The second point I want to make, Latif, is this. There is a misinterpretation on the time frame for the impeachment of the deputy president when the Senate sat. Now, there is, going back to the question you're pushing, the spirit of it. What would have been the spirit of actually impeaching this man? Taking into account the importance of this office, as I've already established, right from when President William Ruto sat down and said, who can actually be my deputy? So he does a careful interrogation and selection of the people around him.
2 days of drama in Karen.
And whatever.
It's Rigathi.
And then I said, it's Rigathi. Why Rigathi? Because he attaches importance to that person who is going to deputize him. But we also know it's because he believed that he will bring a block vote from now the Murima that has been shaken. I think has been moved. Not Jaguzo lakini imesongeshwa kidogo. So that is the importance. So now, when you are going to impeach this person by dint of Article 145, sub-Article 5, so you are saying that initially, senators ought to be wiser people and say, I think let's not rush this matter, because Kenya is not in a state of emergency. It's not like Kenya will collapse if we don't impeach Gachagua. So what we have done, wisdom ought to have reigned on the members of the Senate and even members of Parliament to have begin. First of all, they should have interrogated this allegation. But now that we have moved to the Senate would have said, listen, I think let's be very careful on our actions. Can we subject this to a committee of the Senate, the 11-member committee of Senate, who constitutionally have got 10 days that were supposed to have lapsed by the time the charges were read, lapsed on Saturday. Now, the misinterpretation I'm seeing is that when the Senate now took over this matter, instead of putting a committee, they gave themselves the 11 days, which is not.
Let me read the Constitution. Article 145.
Article 5.
Let me start with 3. Within 7 days after receiving notice of a resolution from the Speaker of the National Assembly, the Speaker of the Senate shall convene a meeting of the Senate to hear charges against the President. What does that mean? That from the moment Speaker Moses Wetangula notified Speaker Amason Kingi of the decision of the National Assembly, Amason Kingi had 7 days to notify the members of the Senate.
First of all, Wetangula has 2 days to notify.
Okay.
He must notify within 2 days of the decision of the National Assembly.
Yes.
And then 7 days.
And then 7 days within which to convene a meeting of the Senate to hear the charges. The Senate by resolution may appoint a special committee comprising 11 of its members to investigate the matter.
Yes.
4. A special committee appointed under Clause 3B, the one I've just read, shall investigate the matter and report to the Senate within 10 days whether it finds the particulars of the allegations against the President to have been substantiated. The President, here, the Deputy President, shall have the right to appear and be represented before the special committee during its investigations. If the special committee reports that the particulars of any allegation against the President have been substantiated, further proceedings shall not be taken, have not been substantiated, further proceedings that shall not be taken. If the special committee finds that they've been substantiated, the Senate shall, after according the President and the Deputy President the opportunity to be heard on the impeachment charges, vote 2/3, blah, 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 out. So here, it's an issue of the days start coming in because it appears after the Constitution introduces the special committee, it goes on further with as if it's a special committee that's sitting. It doesn't tell us if the Senate does not resolve to appoint a special committee, Do these days apply or do they not?
It's not clear. And I think that's where now your question comes in. What then ought to be the spirit? If the letter is not clear, I mean, you know, in constitution making, we always have the letter and the spirit of the law. If the letter is not clear, then we go to the spirit. And now the spirit now takes us to the importance, the fundamentals about these offices. The way in which you see the Rigathi Gachagua impeachment was rushed, you can actually see the choreography. The idea was remove this man by whatever means possible. And that's why the calendar of parliament has even been changed today to sit today on what they call priority, I think priority basis. A priority sitting.
There's a recess coming up,
yes,
but there's a lot
we
of
never. No. You see, Eric, I hope you're not bidding for the National Assembly. But listen, when we had a disaster, the floods disaster in this country, our parliament never convened to talk about how do we manage the disaster management in this country. We saw homes were being swept, people were dying. Parliament never sat in its wisdom. But now, in their wisdom or lack of it, in the impeachment of Gachagua, let's change our calendar. We sit on a Friday, and
two sessions.
In fact, I wish our parliament was so diligent, so hardworking, like the way we saw it in the last couple of days, to actually address the problems of this country.
I get you. Back to the spirit. In the spirit here, if the Constitution says that the Senate may, by resolution, appoint a special committee comprising of 11 members, and then thereafter we go into, then the committee shall sit, the committee shall have this number of days, and then the committee shall present its report, and then the Senate shall consider. Right? In the absence of this committee, it's not clear then what happens. Can we say then the spirit is that if the Senate does not appoint a special committee, it resolves to be a committee of the whole House, then the same still applies?
Well, it's an arguable case. But for me, if you look at talking about the spirit, what would have been the best way for us as a country to actually handle these allegations against the deputy president, the second in command in our country? I think the spirit for me is not to rush it the way they have done it. The spirit for me is not to go ahead and vote, looking at, for example, the person who petitioned it, looking so miserable, cannot even answer his questions, straightforward questions, you know. So I think for me, there we lost the spirit of the Constitution. We lost the spirit of why we constitutionalized this office, why we said, let there be one ticket of a president and his running mate. We lost that spirit. And what is worrying me most, CT, is that this impeachment of Gachagua has actually set a very poor benchmark on impeachment. It has actually entrenched a very low threshold. I'm hoping now going forward, we are going to have an avalanche of impeachments based on this nature of because this is now the president. Today I can wake up.
City keeps saying they have set in motion something they may not.
And that's not bad, by the way.
Right?
That's not bad.
Abdi, but today I can wake up, Abdi. Wait, give me a second. Today I can wake up and say I don't like Abdi. I just concoct some charges, whether substantial or not. Is that really how we want to govern our country?
No. Don't get me wrong. You know, I'm not saying I like what they have done, but if we can impeach, so put it this way: if we were to use that standard, majority of high office holders would be impeached.
Yeah.
And we all agree that the majority of our high office holders actually should be impeached. So the fact that standard is been, I mean, the eyes of the country have been opened to that accountability process, in my opinion, is not a bad thing.
Everything you are saying is theoretical.
Yes.
What we should have, what we ought to have. But when you say it's what we would like to have, I disagree. Because what we are seeing is what we prefer to have. If we haven't challenged the politicization of everything, the letter of the law, the spirit of the law, and the politicization of it is what has taken center stage. It is what we have accepted. I am looking at everything that we have done with regards to understanding the Constitution and the constitutionality of what this whole process is supposed to be.
And
the options exist, but what do we choose time and time again?
And you're so right. I think that's really the point. The point is our processes from the get-go have been very poor and very politicized, and even the basis of our politics has been colored by a lot of things that are not good. Now, so for example, members of our parliament, we all agree, are not the best products. How did they come about? They didn't fall from the air. We voted for them.
And they're Kenyans.
And how did we vote for them? Probably because some paid some people, some were because of ethnic backgrounds or regional backgrounds or a lot of other things. If we were to inquire the way we are inquiring very critically, and it's an important inquiry as to what the coloring of the decision by the Houses of Parliament were yesterday, if we were to follow that to its logical conclusion, the problem is not the impeachment issues. The problem is that the constitutional process from the get-go. So Daktari stood for election as president of this republic.
Yes.
How many people decided to vote or not vote for him based on the qualities that are required, the good qualities of a president? Very few.
Actually, they even said to me, but you're Turkana.
Yeah.
How many are you?
There you go. Thank you very much. So if we were to go, absolutely. So if we were to go to the,
and they also say, do you have money?
There you go. So if our politics is based on that, then we can't come to Parliament and say, how come you're politicizing this issue? This is the product we have come with. Now, I think if there's one lesson to be learned from this, it is that in the next general election, we should elect our members of parliament using the parameters of the Katiba, which is that who is fit for purpose, who is the best person for this, not who comes from my community, who comes from my region, who has
who's aligned
nicely,
with my tribe or kingdom.
Nice,
Councillor, you know, someone in whom I hold in such high regard as yourself, I would not want to disagree with you, but I have to. I honestly...
Please do.
I really honestly don't want to disagree with you.
Please do.
And I'm not disagreeing with you because of that what you're saying is actually not desired or it is not true.
Yes.
What you say is what is desired and what is true.
Yes.
In the absence of the citizens of this country understanding their role in holding their leaders accountable, it does not matter whom we elect.
Okay.
We have a tendency in this country that the moment people enter political office, they become rotten before they are ripe.
I again, let me say, for somebody who I hold in high regard, I will disagree with you. because I honestly believe that we have very many good people in this country. Many good people in this country. And I honestly believe people are generally good. So, for example, our biggest problem as a country is graft, right? Corruption, right?
No, it is not. That is a symptom of our problem. Our problem is impunity.
Impunity is as a result of corruption. But anyway, let's speak about corruption. It's a big problem. Let's not say our biggest, let's say it's a big problem.
It's a big problem.
Now, that big problem, almost all banks in this country, literally every branch of a bank in this country has a vault. And 100% of the people who work in those banks are Kenyans. And majority of the people who hold the keys to those vaults are young Kenyans. And they deal in huge mountain loads of cash. And 80-90% of the time, their salary might be 50K and they're holding 50 million and they don't steal 10 shillings. And it's not just one bank. It is one bank after the other after the other. Now, you go to hospital and the people who care for you are nurses. And they don't come from your community. And they earn very little. And they are up in the wee hours of the night, cleaning your stuff and all these things. Look, we have very many professionals. We have very many good people. Unfortunately, as a country, we don't give the right people the right jobs. So one of the problems I have with the current administration is that it is as if the current administration has been told, look for the worst person for any job and hire them. Now, seriously, because the opportunity, even if you wanted somebody loyal,
deplorable to be.
Even if you wanted somebody loyal, there are so many people who can be loyal and are appropriate and fit for that job. So and as a country, we are blessed with very many good people who are very highly educated. Look, one of the things the 10th Parliament did was to remove the hiring process from the executive and hire for the commissions. And one of the things that used to, surprise us nicely was the number of people who are so highly qualified for any particular job. Now, with a country that is that blessed with good people, how do you have the most mediocre people holding the most important posts? And that is where our problem is. You can't have that and then say
my
on this
for
particular.
you has gone a notch higher. You have put forward a very compelling argument for this.
But then I think Abdi is raising even a more fundamental question. So Abdi, then you are raising a very fundamental question. Then what is really the leader? I mean, just like Eric, you interrogate this issue of the letter and the spirit, and I'll come to that very briefly. But I think the question you are raising, Abdi, is very, very fundamental. That it is a leadership question. Can we say today that actually we have a leadership? Because, like they say, fish rots from the head. So if really, I see leadership as a value. It must cascade downwards. If from the very top, like you say, the people holding high public offices are actually rotten to the core, then what do you expect down there? If we see corruption in billions and millions of money being stolen at the very top, why do you blame a cop who just takes 50 bob, 100 bob, yet his salary is maybe 20,000, 30,000? We are not justifying this bad. And by the way, I think we should stop using the word corruption, because I don't think in Kisomali or even in Luo,
there is no corruption.
There's no word corruption. But if you call somebody a thief, we have given you money to go and build a hospital, and we don't see the hospital, and the money has disappeared, you have stolen. So let's just call it theft, because that's the best way to describe it.
Plunder.
But Eric, to the topic of the day, the letter and the spirit, there are two words we need to distinguish here. Now, I think we have used it. We have used the word constitutionality. Basically, the presence of laws, the passage of laws. But what we miss is constitutionalism.
The culture.
The culture. The living that spirit now. When the letter is not clear, what can we lean to? Did we, for example, just want the fact that the Constitution says by due time, let's impeach? But going by how do we want to be seen? Do we believe in our own Constitution? Can we modify it in such a way that let's not rush this process? Kenya is not in a crisis. We are not at war with another person. Can we preserve the spirit of the Constitution? At least let's leave that culture. And I think that's where the problem lies in this country, because then you have got very mediocre people like Abdi. I mean, I'm just quoting Abdi Kadi, not my word. Very mediocre people in positions of currently.
I stand by.
Currently,
yeah, and and you see, they have no shame on me. They don't apologize at all. So today, I mean, I don't want to mention names, but today the face of leadership in Kenya is some nondescript characters who actually dictate.
We're in a country where people can actually discuss. This person has stolen 5.2 billion shillings in 2 years, and we treat it as casually as,
or we extradite the guy of Triton all the way from England, only for us to withdraw
to come and kill the case.
Yeah. I mean, it's ridiculous. It doesn't make sense. Then what was DCI?
Actually, it makes sense.
No, it doesn't make sense, because if you look at the process of investigation, so there's a complaint to the DCI. DCI investigates. They gather evidence. They send the file to DPP. DPP, have a look at this file. Do you think we can sustain this charge?
Yes.
DPP say, yes, we can charge that person.
Bring the guy.
Then the guy is charged. He is arraigned in court. He's put in prison. The next application here from DPP, we need time to investigate.
You see, you are rightfully thinking like the clear-minded lawyer that you are.
And a good-hearted Kenyan.
That you are, and an honest, loyal Kenyan that you are. We are not discussing legal matters here. We are discussing the influence of the political system and the politicization of everything that we do, and the poison well that our politics is. Because that's what you've just... All these things you're talking about. They're subjected to the law.
But Siri,
Yes, please.
even politics must operate within the legal framework.
In this country, it doesn't. Because if there's anything that we have seen is how our politicians, it's like they look for an opportunity to disregard the law. President Uhuru set that thing in motion. He set it in motion. When you disregard a court order, what do you think you've set in motion? What do you think you've told everybody else in the country? That's what...
Or when police enforcers ignore summons.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Then you expect them to
Yes.
enforce a summon against another. Because today, if you are a chicken thief, you definitely be in industrial area or committee.
Yes.
But if you steal money, because you see, I think one of the most lucrative businesses in Kenya today is theft of public resources.
It has been for some time.
Yeah.
It didn't start yesterday.
That's why politics is the most lucrative job
Yes.
to look for.
Why
Let's
do
take
you-
a break.
Yes,
Let's take a
please.
break. It's 27 minutes to 9. Our guests this morning are constitution experts. They wrote this constitution that we have, and that's why we're discussing the spirit and the letter of the constitution.
And by then, we are all nomads. Just so that, just to remind
This is the
Moi that even nomads can actually.
this is the depth. The people from the farthest corner of this country wrote our constitution. From Mandera North
From Turkana.
and from Turkana. The Turkana guy was the CEO of the Committee of Experts on
And the
Constitution
Mandera guy.
Review. And the Mandera guy was in Parliament
Yes.
as the chair
So
of
you
the Select
can
Committee.
see what nomads actually can do for this country, given the opportunity.
Okay, when we come out of the break, we'll now look at, so after the impeachment has happened, the process of appointing a new deputy president.
Yeah.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Hii September, endelea kufurahia na Star Times. Renew your subscription today on the basic bouquet for 750 shillings for aerial decoders. Enjoy